United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move to the approval of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move we approve the agenda as presented with the following amendments. One, additional certified and classified personnel actions for considerations, item number E-3. Two, add item E-4G, consider approval of founding sponsorship agreement between Western State Bank and Garden City and Western State Bank of Garden City and Unified School District number 457, Garden City Public Schools for the period from August 1st, 2023 to May 31st, 2028. Number 3, add item number E4-H, consider approval of anchor sponsorship agreement between Tyson Shared Services and Unified School District number 457, Garden City Public Schools for the period from August 14th, 2023 to December 31st, 2027. Number 4, add item number E4-I, consider approval of the Automotive Technology Cooperative Agreement between Garden City Community College and USD number 457. Number 5, add item number H-2, new business building needs assessment, Colleen Drees, Chief Financial Officer. Number 6, remove following position change from the addendum to certified personnel actions, close 0.50 adaptive interrelated positions at Victor Annalis Elementary School, open 0.5 adaptive interrelated position at Charles Stone's Intermediate Center.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, Jennifer, I gotta be patient for you. Any public comments, correspondence? Okay. So with that, we move to the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'll have to recuse myself from the consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Discussion on the consent agenda. Approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. I'll second. Been moved. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any discussion?
It was before that.
Before that?
No worries.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
It's been moved and seconded, so board goals update. Staffing update by Dr. Alport.
All right, so I'm just here for the annual HR update on our recruiting for this coming school year. Here's the organizational chart for the HR department. We do have a few new names there, with Chanda taking over for Jennifer. And this will tell you how much we are recruiting in the HR department. Okay, we lost Jennifer Simmons, who is now going to be a certified teacher. So she had a degree, so we kind of talked her into going back into getting her her education certification. So she's actually going to be one of our long-term subs working on her teaching certification for next year. So we were even purging off of our own office trying to get people in the classroom. But Chanda is going to do a great job for us there. We do have the HR coordinator position vacant from us. You know, I was gonna offer Afton a car as well, and just 3 days coming into work, but I didn't think that would fly with the board, so I didn't do that. But apparently another company did, and so that's why she jumped ship on us and went to a different company. But you can see our ladies there. We have a classified personnel specialist, a certified personnel specialist, a substitute specialist, and then our long-term substitute facilitator as well that helps with our training of our long-term subs. Here's basically the breakdown from, this is as of last year of 2022-23. Our certified staff was 558. Our classified staff was 565. And then our total employees was over 1,123. And our student enrollment was right around 7,264. So the first thing you kind of see is that our certified staff has kind of maneuvered from being certified. Well, our certified staff has actually dropped and our classified staff has actually risen. The big influx there is our long-term subs. So we basically have 55 positions at that time last year, 55 positions that should have been certified teachers, but we were replacing with long-term subs. So that's kind of the difference there and why the shift in that from the certified to the classified. Here's our current breakdown of our positions. Ooh, that's really hard to see. Okay. But basically you can see that we have 465 teachers. That makes up about 41% of our total employees. We have 92 maintenance and operation, which is 8%. Food service is 83 at 7%. Transportation, 39 at 4%. Technology at 29 at 3%. Clerical, 84 at 7%. And our special education paras and other paras too are 211 at 19%. And then we have other, which is 87 at 7%. And then we have the essential office at 23 at 2%. Our turnover rate for the district, basically last year, we kind of kept on the average there at 78 that we had that left us. I believe that 10 of those were retirements and the other 68 of those were for just resigned and so forth. But you can see our departure rate and so forth like that is 16%. Now, as far as to get employed with the district, I mean, you know, basically there's a process that we typically use. So you have to complete an online application. Once that online application is completed, we set up an interview with the individuals. We check the professional references. We make sure that we review credentials and certifications. Of course, you do fingerprinting, which is a state mandate. You do health screening, which is a state mandate. You do the TB testing, which is also a state mandate. And then once you get those things back, then you can actually onboard. And this is basically whether you're looking at a certified or a classified individual, they're all going to run through the same procedures and steps because they also have to be fingerprinted and health screening and TB test and so forth. Any employee with the school district. Okay, now looking into this year, we were able to hire 12 elementary school teachers. We were able to hire 6 intermediate teachers, 4 middle school, 6 high school, and then 6 sped teachers. And they're the different grade levels, elementary, and then 2 at the early childhood. For a total of 34 teachers, we were able to hire 5 certified spots. That's basically, I think it's 2 counselors, a deputy superintendent, and then I can't remember the other 2. And then 48 classified spots. And those classified range from food and nutrition to clerical to grounds to bus drivers. So basically just kind of cover all of our classified spots. And then we had basically the long-term substitutes, those 9. If you remember last year, we did have a few folks that weren't able to complete their certifications and so forth like that. So they now kind of flip over to our long-term substitute status since they're not able to have that provisional licensing with being certified. So those 9 maneuvered over to long-term subs for a total of 96 folks that we have hired this summer. So our office has been pretty active, probably 96 individuals for the district. So what are some of our recruiting practices? Well, we attend around 20 job fairs during the year. And we go to various states. We've been to Oklahoma, we've been to Nebraska, we've been to Colorado, we've been to Texas, we've been to Oklahoma. Of course, we've been to Kansas. So we try to hit various states and just kind of getting our name out there. Of course, you know, our office is not the only ones that go. We actually ask teachers, ask some administrators, ask them to go to represent our district, especially if it's their alma mater, to go and talk how good it is to work here in Garden City and so forth like that. So we want them to be to kind of go out and recruit. And so there's different teams that go out and recruit at various spots. I mean, Mr. Guyman even went out and recruited for us, if you can believe that, you know. So he went out there to try to bring some people to us. But we collect as many resumes as possible. Then they send all the information to the HR office. We have an online deal as well where the students will sign their name, their email address, and, you know, kind of when they graduate and what position they're interested in. Then those that are interested in our positions and so forth, we definitely invite them to come up to the schools to do Zoom meetings and interviews and so forth. And then if they're really interested, then we give them the letter of intent and they offer them the position. And I will tell you this year, I mean, if you put your name on any of our list, we contacted you. I mean, I mean, I told all of our office staff, we need to be like that pesky guy that's, hey, I want to date with you. Now don't be creepy, but just get to the point where you finally say, you know what? I like you, but I don't want to go out with you. So we were trying to be as aggressive as possible, but get there and we called. If they had their name on our list, we code contacted them and just said, hey, listen, we're here at Garden. We would love to have you. Are you still interested? And you know, kind of went that direction. But I want to say we reached out to quite a few. I mean, you know, we hit about 20 job fairs and we get a list anywhere from 15 to 20 people. So we made a lot of code contacts last year, just talking to students and seeing if they want to come this direction to Garden City. There's a lot of alternative. In fact, we pretty much have, these are all the licenses that you can get into Kansas. Okay, these are not your regular, you know, you go to a four-year college and you get your teaching degree. These are various programs that institutions are doing now. So we're trying to work with all kinds of universities. They got the Teach to Teach program. Newman has the LEAP program. Wichita State has a TAP program, and Fort Hays has the LRL, which is a new program with a master's degree, I believe, through special education. But we actually have two people right now in our T to T. We have 5 in the Newman program. We have 2 in the Fort Hays program. We have 3 in the Wichita State program. So we work with all those programs trying to get people here to Garden City and try to work through that certification. I've also been in contact with a number of like the K-State, the Kansas, the Washburn, the Pittsburgh. I mean, just trying to get their student teachers here. So that's something else that we're trying to do is kind of work even before they graduate. If we can, I think we got one student teacher from Washburn last year to come down here with us. I think we have one from Nebraska that's actually student teaching with us. I mean, so anything I can do to get the students here, I feel is in our best interest. Because once you come to Garden City and see that everything that we have to offer, I mean, it's a great place to live, great place to stay, but it's a part of, now where are y'all at again? I mean, you know, they think once they get to Salina, that's as far as west they want to go. So we got to keep on going. But anyway, so those are all the programs we work with. Here's our student teaching. Remember I talked to you about our student teachers. This year, we have 9 signed student teaching agreements. And so basically what that means is we provide them with a stipend and they can actually be the teacher of record for this year. So we have 9 of those that have signed on for this fall. And so hopefully once they complete their fall assignments and so forth, we'll be able to hire them on as full-time for next year. So that's been a pretty good avenue for us. And that's why I tell you that I want to get student teachers here. I want us to get as many people here as possible, because once they come here, they tend to want to stay with us. And then why USD-457? This is the biggest cell that we have to talk to our kids about. It just, basically, I mean, the district is doing a great job at providing a high professional development. Our competitive, I mean, we got up to 45,000 this past year, which is great, which we appreciate the board doing that. We have instructional support with the curriculum, with instructional coaches. We have time for collaboration, provide a positive, safe working environment. Our principals, and they're going through the TNP, and so that really provides them with some strong leadership on our campuses and so forth to be able to support our teachers, and just opportunities for innovation. And of course, we're always looking at growing our own. We got the master's reimbursement, and then also the KSU, the leadership cohort that we're a part of. But those are reasons why we want people to come here to USD-457. And so I'm really pleased to tell you that we were able to find and get our positions ready to row for tomorrow. So we have teachers in place and ready to row. I want to do a really just thankful shout out to Lisa Sanders and the ladies, Rebecca and Jenny. They all did a great job. At Barbara, I mean, even our administrators did a terrific job getting out there, getting on the Rolodexes, getting on their database or whatever it is, just calling people, trying to get them in here to Garden City. So it's definitely a team effort to try to get folks this direction. And so I just really appreciate our administrative staff and working with the HR department to get people here. So that is all I have for you. If you have any questions.
You mentioned, but the way you said it, I just want to clarify, long-term subs that we have right now, last year was 55, or this year we have 55?
No, this year we have 63. And 3 years ago, we had 37. And then 4 years ago, we had 23.
Do we have any other, so that's 63 certified positions we didn't get filled, so we filled them with long-term subs.
That's correct.
Do we have any more open positions that we don't have filled currently of the certified?
Oh, the certified, no, ma'am. No, that we were able to go and get with those long-term subs. And like I said, our principals, Lisa, I mean, we had a resignation of a teacher. I want to say she was a kindergarten teacher that left us to go be with her fiance in another part of the state, that left us late. And within 2 days, we had somebody to fill her position. And that's just incredible. I mean, our principals did a terrific job shaking the trees, and hey, I have this parent that actually has a degree that's interested in doing this. And I mean, so we were able to do that immediately. I mean, so that was great, but it was all a team effort with our administrators, and the ladies in our office did a great job.
Of the 63, could you give us data about how many of those are in some sort of transition to teaching program?
Well, I would probably render to say about a third of them are, because if you think about those 63, 9 of them have already completed all their coursework. It's just they haven't been able to pass the exam yet. So you're at 9 of those, and I know for sure we have another 10 to 15 that are in programs. And that's something that we're really, really pushing. I mean, we're really having Dr. Dominguez and myself and Afton, we went with KSU, and they're looking at bringing a program here to Garden City that kind of starts right after graduation and starts working with folks that direction. And so anything that we can do, I think Dodge City just started an apprentice program, which I don't know if we're there yet or not, but they're actually paying their parents to go to school. And then when they get out, they're teachers. I mean, it just some out of the box thinking is going. I mean, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to do that, but other districts are doing it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
On your resignations, you had 22-23, but did we have 23-24? How many we had coming into this year?
Yeah, that was the end of the, that was it.
22-23 is what is meant by
It
this
just ended, and
coming-
it just ended.
incoming.
Yeah,
year.
we're going into 23-24. So, yeah, no.
It's my understanding that we have one grade school that may have only 2 certified teachers out of all of the teachers in classrooms. The rest of them are probably in one of these term subs and, in the process of working on their certification. That's just an example to me of the challenges you face.
Yeah, I don't, we made a move in the spring. We basically only have 7 long-term subs that are teaching our kids K-4. And so, but if we wouldn't have made the move that we made, that number would have been closer to 30. So, I think that goes with research and so forth, that by us making that move, we're going to be able to better the education given to those kids, especially at the K-4 level.
Yeah, that wasn't intended to be criticism. It's just,
No,
this is where we're at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, and we're shaking the trees and just trying to, but it's just like I was talking to one of the high school teachers the other day. She came over and we were just kind of visiting, and, she told me that she has a couple long-term subs that she's helping, and so forth like that. And I told her, I said, hey, we're shaking the trees we're trying to get. And she looked at me, she goes, yeah, we got to get good people. And I said, I completely agree with you. I mean, because we need to put good, solid people in front of our kids. And so there's a really tough balancing act right there.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So.
Where are we at filling the supporting staff, like bus drivers, maintenance, paras? How does that look?
We're still shaking the trees on the paras. I mean, like I said, we had like 48 classified persons. I think we're still looking for 2 bus drivers. But no, we're definitely still shaking the trees trying to get, and then we also need daily subs. Daily subs are going to be the big thing here pretty soon, because of some of those daily subs that already had degrees and so forth. We moved into long-term subs, so now our daily sub is kind of hurting. I think we're down to, typically we have around 100 daily subs, and I think we're down to about 40. And so we really need to push that out here on Facebook or whatever here once the school gets going with those substitutes.
So, obviously, there's been a lot of hard work and travel and collaboration trying to get new teachers hired. One of the slides we showed, I think over the last 7 or 8 years, is we have about a 12 to 16% turnover rate. How do we decrease that number? When we do exit interviews, why the 12 to 16% leaving, and how do we decrease that number to where we don't have to go find as many and we get more experienced teachers over time for our students?
Right. Well, any organization is going to have a turnover ratio. I mean, just I haven't averaged it here to see just only my second year, so I really haven't averaged it to see what our turnover ratio is. But typically, I mean, it runs anywhere from 12 to 15%. So running at 16%, or let me get that slide real quick. Yeah, you had 15%, 12%, 13%, 10%, 16, 14, 16. So that kind of seems like you're just going to have that number of people that basically choose to do other things or to go other places. Now, we do exit interviews. One thing, Dr. Dominguez took us to a conference this week this summer. And one of the things that one of the HR people do is they do stay put surveys. So what's keeping you here? So instead of asking people why they're leaving, to ask some people why they stay here. And so I thought that was a great idea to try to implement as far as why are you here? Why are you here in Garden City? And it also helped us with recruiting to be able to share those testimonials out with other applicants and so forth.
Are there any consistent themes in the exit interviews or reasons why? When they,
Not really. I mean, most of them are, and it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at a certified person, you're looking at a classified person. Most of my classified person have been because of pay. One I was reading the other day, which was crazy. He left our, which we were paying close to 16 an hour. And I thought, that's pretty darn good for the school system, paying 16 an hour. Well, he got on as an apprentice making $25 an hour. I'm like, I don't know how you, and then they're going to pay for him to go back and get his apprentice license as far as the electrician and stuff. I'm like, dude, I mean, that they're just we just can't compete with some of that stuff. I mean, we just can't. But no, I mean, really, as far as on the classified side or on the certified side, you really don't see too many, other than just, we're moving, we're going to go do this or do that type of deal. But there's nothing consistent there as far as like a normal theme.
Questions? Thanks a lot, Joe. Appreciate the update. Appreciate all your hard work.
Well, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
We'll move on to item G, unfinished business, Little Leaders of Garden City. Partnership and discussion.
Yeah.
This is really far.
I know where.
It's really weird.
I know it feels green on this side, but I feel like it.
We don't really have a whole lot of updates from our side, from staff side. We did reach out to Lila, and she provided a response. And then one of the other board members is present for any additional questions as well. So she said, if you don't mind sharing, that we're still as committed to the partnership as what we were when we first approached the board. We have a new and very dedicated director, Alyssa Rojas, who has already shown the same passion as the board. She wasn't available due to being at open houses for community outreach, and we appreciate the time the board has put into considering this partnership.
One of the questions I had last time was I asked the community, basically their board, to go to the community and see if any other community members would step forward. Was there any other community members that stepped forward that you know?
We have come up with none so far. Which hiring Alyssa has been a great help because she's the director. She has time to actually go out and talk to these people more so than we do. Most of us work when everybody else is at work. So it makes it very difficult for us, but we're hoping that she can help build some of those partnerships to help us future down the road. Like at this second time, no, we do not have it.
Now, boy, here you are, and I hate to put you on the spot, but it's just a question. And so if you can answer it, great. If not, that's fine too. But I think there had been some, of course, this has been this need for the community to have adequate childcare resources has certainly been an ongoing discussion for a long, long time.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm being summoned to the podium, so.
Yeah, you bet.
Like I was more comfortable back there.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know you're comfortable back there. Like I say, I hate to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine.
But again, this is just, again, trying to learn. And so there's sort of a model out there, I think, that maybe the county or Finney County Economic Development Corporation or others had tried to put together for other daycare resources for a sustainable model, if you will. And I don't know much about that, but I don't know whether your board has discussed that or not.
I I refer to them as the network because they have this long name that I don't know what it is. So effectively, I've started calling them the network. They did, and they do have a model. Unfortunately, from what I've seen, their model's never actually been implemented. Because the daycare that the county and city invested in has still yet to open. So we don't know if that model works. I mean, theoretically, thank you. It might work. We modeled ours similar to that, but food is still a huge money loss. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, what service you run, whether it's a nursing home, a hospital, daycare, school district. It is what it is because of the cost, inflation, things you can never control. Not to mention staff and paying. So we modeled some of ours, tried using that. We did at one time look at a partnership with them. That did not go through. And so since then, we've been trying to figure this out on our own. Unfortunately, actually all of the board have never ran a daycare. I grew up in one. My mom still owns one after 40 some years, but I don't know what she does. So we're trying to figure this out. Of course, the raising of the prices helped, but then we also have to pay teachers. Like your HR guy said, you got to get good people to put in front of your kids. So paying them $7, $8 an hour, HR, you're not getting good people. It is what it is. So that's why to us on our side, this partnership is extremely important. And which is why we came to it about it, because from what we have seen, the model, how it's made up, didn't work for us for whatever reason. Whether it doesn't work or we weren't using it correctly, I don't know. Those are questions above my pay grade. But
It sounds like it was just, since it's untried, it's still a question mark.
It's still a question mark. And even on that model, food was still a huge problem because of the cost, the staff it takes to do it. It was still a huge problem even under that model to where you're operating to not continuously losing money.
Well, and Mark, and I hope I'm not stepping out of line, but when the Finney County Child Care and Early Learning.
Network, thank you.
That's the network.
That's
When I first heard a presentation, they were gonna follow the Head Start model. However, the Head Start model is heavily federally funded, so they are able to get those grant monies. Now, the last time that I spoke with somebody from that group, they are now potentially, again, they're not open, they're not running, so none of this is, we don't know if it's a feasible model, but they have gone with Garden City Community College. And as has been presented to us in the last presentation, you know, schools like St. Dominic's and other places who used to go with the Garden City Community College can't afford it anymore. So they've come to the district. That's, you know, that's, I'm assuming that's why we know.
if I don't want to misquote, but it was more than what we could afford, is basically what it comes down to. And thank you for knowing the actual whole name of it. I can never remember it. So
And I'm only saying like the Head Start model because that's what was presented in the early part of their development. Now, since then, that was probably over a year ago that I heard that presentation. So please don't take that to the grave or whatever that saying is. But that was my understanding in the beginning. But again, I want to reiterate that Head Start is it's a federally funded program where they are able to cover those meals because they have those grant monies. So.
And we are working on grants, but of course, like we talked the first time, those do take time. We can write one now, but it could be 6 to 9 months before you ever know if you get it. And then by the time the funds kick in. When we first came to Dr. Dominguez, our biggest ask was to get us through this year, and we can always reevaluate it over the summer or next year. But our biggest ask was to get us through this school year to help us stay open and get our feet under us, because we've had to do a lot of changes. You've pretty much had a board of teachers, attorneys, people like that, a cop, running this thing until we can get a good solid director in there to take care of 99% of that. And we feel we actually found that person now. So Here's hoping.
What is your name?
Joseph Connor.
Now, questions or? No, I was thinking, again, just to sort of review, it seems like, again, this is a pilot, relationship for a year. And there's concern out there about precedents. And, some of those discussions, don't need to reiterate some of that. Just again, to reiterate what we heard last board meeting, as I recall, we do have the will and the capacity for 1 year under this proposal in the food services department. Is that correct? There was also some expression, as I recall, about, hey, we're not really interested in going down a path of being a caterer.
I think Tracy would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Oh, there she is. I'm sorry. She's here. You're here. I don't need to speak for you. Thank you.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. There might even have been some information to, say, the city and the county and their efforts on another childcare. I understood that maybe they got information from you that we don't have the capacity for their project.
Basically, yes. I mean, my philosophy is if I'm going to do something, I want to do it 100%. And so if we are going to be in the daycare business or in the catering business, then we need to build our department to handle that.
And it just isn't there right now. And as I, okay, don't mean to put words in your mouth.
No, you're no.
Trying to review here. And then, shoot, there was another point. Help me with my point, would you?
That's, I don't want you to make, no, I'm just kidding.
Again, I'm just reviewing. So in our last conversation, we were sort of split as a board. We were split as a board. And whether we felt like we could support this unless we got more information from the community about some additional will to help us. And so far, I think the answer is we didn't find anybody that stepped up and said, we'll cover a portion of the 81,000 expense to USD-457. Is that correct as far as you know?
So yes, I mean, the expenses also, if we don't charge our employees for daycare costs. So that's also something to just consider. So if we charge it directly to the employee for the full 190 a week, we would be able to cash flow the program. If we don't, and the district assumes part of that fee to discount it for employees to incentivize it as a benefit, then that's where we need to find the dollars to cover it.
That's where we came to 81,000 because there were 8 positions that were discussed.
Essentially, the total cost of the food is just over 80,000. So what we did is we did basically a cost of value per value comparison of what providing that food versus the value back to the district looks like.
Okay.
Which last I knew was the eight spots and the 2 after school program.
Yes, sir.
Being discussed tonight is not the program we would offer how we would distribute those 8 spots and 2 after school programs to our staff. It's just the agreement with Little Leaders. Tracy, is there capacity in the food service, in the nutrition department to take these on?
We can make it work.
Okay. Is there capacity to continue the same thing for years to come?
We need to build that capacity, definitely. Like I said, we are going to try to follow the CACFP regulations, but since we're not underneath that program with them, we don't have to, so it's going to make it a little easier for us. We're not talking about a lot of meals at this time, so we will be able to do it. Is it going to throw a wrench in things? When you change, it does, but we can make it happen.
And you're not providing the staff to serve.
No.
Right,
No.
so it's just the
No.
meals, right?
It's
No.
literally just the food.
And transportation from
Right.
Well, I'm wondering, I'm just trying to visualize, so if we're considering this as a pilot, in my mind, this would be a pilot program for 1 year, both piloting the agreement with Little Leaders, but also how we handle doing this. Do you envision, what do you envision for nutrition services having to change in the future if this same exact number of meals were to continue on beyond 1 year?
That's a hard question.
Okay.
I envision more daycares approaching us. With that being said, we would have to probably hire on a person just to like do the CACFP paperwork and those to make it. How do I want to put this? To do the daycares in Garden City, we would administrate the program, the CACF program. We would take that over. Then we would be asking for reimbursement. With that is a huge undertaking because we would be in charge of making sure that all the daycare parents fill out applications. And then we have to follow up with the percentages and keep track of that. There's a lot of accountability there. And I find when I lose control when it's outsourced. Does that make sense? Like the summer feeding program, we had wonderful community members, but there was still tracking down meal count sheets. There were still people that did not know how to follow the rules, and then we lose reimbursement. So we just lose some of that control and that accountability. If that makes sense.
I mean, in regard to your staff, just actually having the staff and equipment and the location that can handle the additional meals, what's the stress on the system, on your system for that?
My managers like going, what? But they'll do whatever we ask. So basically, it's not a lot of meals. We'll prepare the lunch meals warm and take them over. And then the others will just be basically in a cold or frozen state where they'll have to cook or prepare for breakfast and snack. So it's going to take one lady out of the kitchen for probably 30 to 45 minutes for that delivery.
We have like 3 hubs where we do kitchen work, right?
No, we have 2 base kitchen. We have the high school and the Horse Good who's satellite out. Then the remainder of our kitchens are either base kitchens that don't satellite out or a satellite kitchen that gets satellite out from Horse Good or the high school.
Okay.
So the majority of our meals come from Horse Good and the high school because of the facilities.
Would like to say just to the board as part of discussion, I do feel like it was made clear that we could not provide transportation when approached, but it wasn't made clear that we could not provide lunches. I feel like there was some level of miscommunication during that time. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Because just from my own research and just having some conversations, I do feel like Little Leaders was under the assumption however that communication went, they believed that this was something that could happen. So with that, I feel some level of responsibility because I feel like, I mean, it was obviously clear that transportation wasn't a possibility, but it wasn't clear that food wasn't. And however that went, I mean, it is what it is. But just in having Lila here last week, I think it's clear that they have a clear vision. She is a professional. She is on top of things. I feel like the direction is positive. Hopefully from here, that's all you can ask for. So I do feel like that needs to be part of the consideration as we make the decision.
I was at that meeting that she's referring to. What she says is correct, which I'm sure Lila has spoke about too.
When you say transportation, you're referring to transportation of students or transportation of meals?
When they approached us, they asked about transportation and food. So
We actually started an after-school program. And we talked to Dr. Dominguez about transportation from the elementary schools to the daycare for the before and after school program. Could we be a bus pickup and a bus drop off? Logistically, we understand that's a nightmare. So we'll do our own transportation on that aspect, but that's what she's referring to as transportation. You made it perfectly clear that that's a logistical nightmare, not gonna happen. Like, we just can't do that. Food was the biggest thing. We can deal with the transportation for the before and after school program. Food's our main ask. Actually, our only ask.
I move that, oh, go ahead. You
I
have-
just have another weird, this is sort of left field, I'm sorry. And it's far enough back that there's no probably good answer, but back when Russell Child Development Center staff were staff of USD-457. And they operated, their program, was there any food service involved in that?
Russell Child, they did snacks. They did some snacks to the CACFP program, but they did not provide meals.
And they got that through us.
What's that? No,
They get that
no,
through us?
they
Yeah.
ran their own program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Russell Child, I mean, just a side note, they do have people that are I would say consultants, or they check on the daycares just to oversee their CACFP programs. So that's kind of under the umbrella of Russell Child Center.
I would, oh, sorry, John.
Jennifer, do you have any comments or
Oh, yeah.
questions?
I don't. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. No, I still am going on the information from the last meeting and still feel the same way that I felt before. So I really don't have any new questions.
Could we go ahead and make a motion? Okay. My motion would be that we approve a one-year pilot program with Little Leaders to provide meals for the 2023-2024 school year.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded that Garden City USD-457 would provide meals to the Little Leaders on a one-year pilot program. So
Discussion.
any discussion? Any more discussion?
I just have one comment.
Okay.
Mr. President, that is, I don't know how we do it, but I think we have to have a mindset of innovation. And without, with total respect to staff and our capacity, respect to the community needs and the role that we play in that community. And I just feel like we need to err on the side of innovation, even if it's not something we feel like we can do into the future. It's still moving in the right direction for the community. And that's sort of where my bias comes from. I'm hoping we can vote in the affirmative for the reasons that have been discussed. But that's just my piece. Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion or comments? I guess we'll bring it to a vote. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
3-3.
It fails. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Move on to new business, presentation of the 2023-2024 budget.
Good evening. Tonight I'll be presenting on a high-level overview of the 2023 2024 budget. In front of you, you all have a budget binder that includes the budget timeline and a copy also of the presentation in the front of the binder. So this evening, we will be covering the following topics. So our budget priorities. So how we have identified these priorities. Our general and supplemental fund, our projections versus our actuals. Our enrollment summary, so trends over the past 5 years. Mill levy, our assessed valuation, our mill levy for the past 9 years. And our budget timeline, so important dates for the 23-24 budget. So budget priorities. Here are the following budget priorities that we've identified that guides our fiscal decisions. These 3 priorities have been identified as common topics of focus, and it was also identified in our building needs assessment as well, which that's the next presentation. So recruitment and retention, evidence-based programs that improve student outcomes, and investing in quality professional development. Here we have a table that compares our projections versus the actual for general and supplemental general funds. As you can see with the fiscal year 23 projections and actuals, that our projections are higher than the actuals. We are setting our legal maximum authority, and you want to then project those budgets higher than expected, so that in the event we have more students enroll prior to September 20th, or what our readings are better than what we expect, we have the authority from the state to spend those dollars. For fiscal year 24, the budget has purposefully been projected high, so we can ensure there's enough legal maximum authority. I've also projected here that what is a little bit more of a realistic and expected fund authority for fiscal year 24 with the current decline in our student enrollment. So I have the fiscal year 23 projected where our actuals came in at for a general fund and supplemental general fund, what the projection is for fiscal year 24, and where I actually expect fiscal year 24 to end up with our current decline in enrollment and those weightings associated with it. But it's just a way to show you our projected and actuals are a little bit different. And then where I'm actually projecting us to be versus where I actually expect it to be. Here's the enrollment summary for the last 10 years. As you can see, we have had a decline for the past several years. Garden City is expected to continue to grow. So we're anticipating that enrollment decline will either level out or will start to increase again as more people move into the community. With every student the district loses, we lose a ratio of about 1.5 in weightings. So weightings per student, so for every head, about 1.5 in weightings per child. The sum total down there is 593, as you can see from 2013. That's our total loss of head count. So students. So this slide shows the assessed valuation over the last 13 years. As you can see, there has been quite a bit of variation over the years. Most recently, we've had 4 years in a row where our valuation has increased. With our assessed valuation continuing to grow, that creates the opportunity for the district to assess additional funding to provide quality education to our community. There was a 3% increase in assessed valuation over last year. Here's a summary of our mill levy over the last 10 years. As you can see, the school board has been able to keep the mill levy flat from fiscal year 17 through fiscal year 21. The board voted to raise the mill levy 0.6 mils during fiscal year 2022. Taxpayers are also still able to see a break on the first $40,000 of their home's value. This was increased from $20,000 last year. Our revenue neutral rate this year is 44.765 mils. This rate is the number of mills we would need to levy to collect the same dollar amount of taxes as what we did last year. If we chose to do this, we would end up losing approximately $2 million in funding for the school district. With the rising expenses for all our operational expenses for the district, such as motor fuel, propane gas, electricity, construction expenses, and many more, we could utilize these funds to continue to move the district forward to meet the needs of our students.
You said, what was that, the levy amount, the revenue neutral amount?
44.765. So if we levied those mills, it's approximately $2 million.
2 or 10?
Two. Mhm. We will also need to continue to evaluate this yearly as our payments on our bond and interest fund continues to grow. It'll be important to continue to build our cash balances in our bond and interest fund to continue to sustain these increased expenses. Value per mill for $443,658. So our timeline, so our next meeting is August 23rd. That's for the budget committee meeting. So 3 of the board members will be meeting with us to do a deep dive on the budget and answer any questions. On August 28th, I'll return with the permission to publish the budget publication on the website and newspaper. Between now and then, as you begin reviewing the budget binders, if there are questions, please email them to Dr. Dominguez. I'll get you whatever information that you need if there's questions that come up as you go through those binders. And then September 11th, we'll come back with the budget and the revenue neutral hearing dates. So during that hearing, there's a chance for the public to make any comments.
We will have those hearings on the 11th.
Yes, sir. And then September 20th, so after that final approval on September 11th by the board, we will then send that over to the state for final approval. It's important to know that between now and August 28th, if there's any questions or changes, once we publish the website, there will be no changes, or publish the code 99 document, there's no changes after that. I just want to make sure that you all know. And then 3 of you lucky ones get to do a deep dive on this budget. Thoughts? It's not intense. The budget isn't intense at all. There's not very much information there whatsoever to go through. A lot of information to get through, but don't hesitate to reach out if you guys have questions.
Thank you, Colleen.
Yep, thank you.
Quick question. I know this is getting in the weeds already, but we talked before about driver's ed funding comes 100% from the state.
Yes, sir.
Question or questions on the budget presentation? All right, we'll move on to the building needs assessment. Andrews.
Okay, so building needs assessment. If you all remember, this was a little bit of a rushed process last year. We had legislation that kind of came out later about utilizing this process as part of our budget approval process. So utilizing the information from the building needs assessments to then make recommendations to the board on how we've designed and implemented the budget. This year, we got ahead of that game, and so there's been a lot of work put towards this earlier this spring to then use this through the budget process to identify our goals and make sure that our funding is meeting the needs of what our schools have identified. So to talk kind of about the process that was utilized for the building needs assessment this year. So individual buildings utilize their building leadership teams to complete the needs assessment and the state assessment review. So they all had an individual tab of information that they filled out and then provided that back to the board. During one of our monthly principal meetings, the principals were able to work in small groups to complete their needs assessments. Then a committee of 3 principals and 2 central office administrators reviewed all of the school's needs assessments and then compiled those into the Board of Education Statement Assessments Review document. We'll review that here towards the end. I'll show that document to you. The summary document was reviewed and utilized during the budgeting process for fiscal year 24 to identify budgeting priorities. During the budget approval process, there will be a couple of motions that you'll also need to make as to accept the budget needs assessment and to say that you've utilized it in part of the budget approval process so that we can check those boxes. So common themes. So when reviewing the budget, the building needs assessment, there were definitely some standout themes to the feedback that we were receiving from the buildings. Of those, the need for high quality professional development, strategies to meet the needs of high risk students, and attract and retain staff. So how did we use this in our budget planning process? So for professional development, we continue utilizing ESSER funds to provide professional development for staff, and we added 2 professional development days to the calendar. We're also actively building up our cash balances in our professional development fund so that once we have the ESSER cliff that is coming, we can continue to sustain and attract and provide high quality professional development for our staff. So utilizing this time to also do that to make sure that we can continue providing that for staff. So we've continued providing intervention supports, evidence-based best practices, rigorous curriculum, after-school program, and summer school to support students. Recruiting of staff, so human resources has continued to identify opportunities to attend recruitment fairs and has continued to identify and implement new strategies to grow our own. And then retain staff, we have completed a compensation study with a market analysis to ensure we are offering competitive wages. So let me go ahead and go over. So in each of these needs assessments, they were summarized down into this form. So each school, the grades that were served, the barriers that were related to student needs, then the budget actions needed to meet those barriers, and then the time for students to achieve, and board rationale comments. So on per se, this first one, AP, so the barriers needed professional development and aligned instructional resources. Budget actions, fund additional professional development opportunities. Time for students to achieve. So thinking about the time that you do the training to then the implementation of the training and then the test scores, that's a lengthy process to kind of get moving. So you're providing that motion, that ball rolling. So you'll see that the time for students to achieve, to really see that impact on the student success, to be a couple of years down the road. So that's how we've identified that process. And then board rationale comments, we fill that in with, we will continue to seek opportunities to provide high quality professional development trainings for staff that focus on literacy. So just the comment back to, this is how we're utilizing the information. This is how we have identified resources within our budget to then meet those needs to move forward. Because we had so many common themes, you'll see a lot of similar answers and a lot of the similar time frame and then board rationale comments back to how we are addressing that and what items have been addressed within the budget. would you like me to go through individual ones or pick out a couple of key? What would you guys like?
I have a quick question.
Go for it.
So here we have barriers related to student needs, column, and then the different schools.
Uh-huh.
So that was a statement boiled down from that school.
Yes.
It didn't come from anywhere else.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
I didn't look at Amanda. Do we have a copy of this? Is this sent to us?
Yep, so this was in the Friday communication, both PowerPoint slide decks and then this was in there too.
Just what I want to make sure so I can
Sure.
look at it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You just take the top line and use it as an example.
That's the one she just did.
Yeah, no, sorry, I might have misheard.
No, you're good.
You're talking about how it tied to the budget. Did you say that or no?
Yeah, so how did we tie this to the budget?
Yeah.
So the top one is we will continue to seek opportunities to provide high quality professional development trainings for staff that focus on literacy. We have identified some continuation within the ESSER, so the new teacher project, and then continuing to identify those needs with our curriculum and instruction department to utilize our professional development budget to continue to identify those.
So there's money set aside through different funds for this, but not specifically a set amount for AU.
Right, yes. We have other opportunities for schools to define their own professional development needs, and utilize ESSER funding to also do their own professional development if they feel like they need it on an individual building versus what the district defines in our professional development plan.
And so how is that money divvied up between schools?
So couple of different things. So each school has their own budget for in-service for their principal and their staff. And then also with ESSER funding, we've done a individual building allocation. With that individual building allocation, they could utilize those funds to either purchase supplies, professional development, or pay wages for their staff to attend those professional development opportunities.
And so how is that money distributed? Is it like according to the size of the building or?
We did a FTE per head count, so we took 300,000 and then split it up based on number of students per building. The professional development for the individual buildings is fairly similar to that. The 300,000 that's off of the ESSER accounts where how we identify those funds to support the buildings.
She's explain to me, so at the top of this 2021-22 state assessments review for 2023-24 budget consideration. So were these building evaluations done in the 2021-2022 year? What is that in reference to?
So it is in reference to the last set of student data from the state assessments that were completed in 21-22. That was the most recent data that was utilized by the building leadership teams and principals to then fill out their state assessments and their review tabs to then provide this information to the board. So all of this was completed in May and then reviewed and then compiled for the board towards the end of May. And now that it's coming around for budget season, we're bringing that back out in front of the board to be able to review, ask any questions so that we can adopt and approve this as part of the rest of the budget presentations.
Do you think that 300,000 will be sustainable moving forward without ESSER funds?
No. Quite honestly, But of that 300,000 that has been identified, this will now be the third year of this funding. And none of these schools have utilized that full portion. Their full allocation.
They're able to carry forward then.
It does not, we don't roll it each year. They have 300, they have their allocation to use within that school year, and then I clean their accounts and then give them new money at the beginning of the year.
So are you seeing the budget 300,000, but it's gone largely unused or partially unused?
Partially unused,
Partially unused. So what is the amount do you think?
What percentage of the 300,000?
60%
Used or unused?
used.
So is 180,000 sustainable?
Closer to being sustainable. I think there is going to have to be some considerations on what is the value and what is the impact for those dollars that are being spent, so that we really make sure that where we are investing those dollars, it's really moving the needle. I think that's fair to say about probably a lot of things, so.
Any more questions or discussions?
I just have one, and it's sort of implicit there, but if you have a school that's identified a need in this process and they have not addressed it, but with maybe 60% of the funding, the other 40 is going unspent. I mean, there's probably a number of reasons why that might occur. The opportunities that they want to avail themselves of didn't cost that much.
Time is a big thing, right? So
It's a big thing.
if you're trying to bring in new professional development, you've got to work with your staff and find those resources and then identify, a professional development component that works and meets the needs. Some of those things are really hard to get off the ground. They are. And there's only so much time in the day, and there's surely a lot on our principals to make happen at their building every single day. So.
I mean, some of this stuff's priorities of the board for the staff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, a big
So
big
that,
theme through this was the competitive pay, right? We saw that everywhere. Hopefully, we're a step closer on that component. There weren't really any surprises in any of this information. There weren't any shockers, oh my gosh, I didn't think this was a problem. They're all things that we have identified and have continued to work towards meeting those needs for the district. We know professional development is a big one, that everybody wants something that pertains to their subject or what they do on a day-to-day basis. We know that. We know that we have a high-risk population that needs to continues to need interventions and continued resources to help move them forward.
I asked that because I don't necessarily want to see it in a presentation here, because I don't want to call anybody out, any team. But it would be interesting to know if if you had a column or if you had the information on why they weren't able to spend the resources that were made available to them. Wasn't enough. I mean, I'm sure could be a list of reasons, circumstances, but without naming names, kind of thing, it still would be interesting to know what they ran into.
Sure.
Because clearly there's a resource there to help them. And if they didn't avail themselves of it, there's certainly a reason, and you identified a big one, time. And maybe that's just it. But if there's any additional information there,
Sure.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Without naming names.
And I mean, we left those parameters very open for them. So say the high school received $65,000. They could use that $65,000 and spend it in professional development supplies or wages, whichever way that they deemed necessary. So we tried to kind of remove all those barriers. Your biggest barrier, because it's ESSER funds, is that it has to qualify for one of the 15 authorized uses for ESSER funding. That's probably your biggest thing there, is that they have to report back to the business office by the end of the school year on how they utilized those dollars and how it qualified for one of those 15 authorized uses. So that could be a big disclaimer there, is that that's not just funding that you can use whatever way that you want. But I will say that the 15 authorized uses for ESSER dollars is pretty all encompassing. It's a wide variety of potential utilizations.
Thank you. You feel splitting it just by head count is the most effective way? Or do we have certain schools that may utilize more of theirs or need more of theirs?
It seems fairly effective in the sense that most everyone has been able to utilize their funding or haven't spent it all.
Have schools that have maxed out and schools that have not.
No, and more often than not, if they've communicated with me, I've worked with them to try and find ways to
Shifted. Gotcha.
or budget for the things that they need. Some have done some additional projects over the summers, so I've worked with them to do that even after the deadline, that kind of a thing.
Any other comments or questions regarding budget needs? All right. Thank you, Colleen.
Yep.
We'll move on to election of a delegate, an alternate delegate for the Kansas Association of School Boards Saturday Assembly. Annual KASD.
Want to let you know, Mr. President, I have a conflict on that day.
I guess, is there anybody that would like to attend or volunteer to attend? And do we need a delegate?
I think the leadership, I mean, you can nominate somebody here and then it just goes into the big delegation pool. I think Mr. Rude was on that last year for maybe Vice President Mark, is that correct? And then I'm not sure how that worked out, but sometimes we don't get the votes just because we're in Western Kansas, so we don't have to nominate anybody. I don't think we have to nominate.
The people don't have to attend. You'll get sent information in an email when the information's entered. In KSB, who's the delegate and alternate delegate, you'll get an email with links to join online, and you can vote online. You don't have to be in attendance. And last year, it was president and vice president that ended up going on as delegate.
Have in the past. And if I don't have to be there in person, I have no problem representing.
I'm not asking that. I was just asking for a little bit more background as far as what this entails. Is it a one-time vote? Is it a year long?
No, it's just a one time, I believe, at the gathering of the delegates at the annual. It's an organizational thing for KSB. And so, but KSB is very strong in Kansas. It's the organization for. So the annual meeting is a wonderful collaborative environment with board members from across the state and resources from every corner of the earth, I think. As far as vendors and that kind of thing. And so as far as the delegates gathering, it's a voice. There's a lot of voices, but you certainly want to have Southwest Kansas voice, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move we appoint John Weesey as the delegate and Jackie Jiggett as the alternate delegate to represent USD-457 at KASB's Delegate Assembly on November 11th, 2023 at the KASB Annual Convention.
Would second that.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried. We'll move on to board policy, GAAF, emergency safety interventions. This will be a first read by Josh Gunn. Gonna pack a lunch. Looks like you're gonna be up there in a minute.
I'm gonna try to be quick. I don't wanna bore you guys too much. So, I tried to send information out so you guys had an opportunity to read through the policies ahead of time. I do apologize because I don't think that, one of the policies got on the last Friday updates to you all. So my mistake, it was just miscommunication between Jennifer and I. My bad, but the first one is the emergency safety interventions, or the ESI. Really just all the policies that I have tonight that I'm going to go over with you all are all based on new legislation, whether that be state or federal legislation that requires us to update these policies. I've gone through and read through almost all the policies that were comparing old to new, and really with this one, there's not a whole difference there. There's just a couple of things that they've added, a couple pieces of definitions in there. So one of them is the area of purposeful isolation is added to the policy to define what that is. And then purposefully isolating and seclusion, they changed the definitions on those. And really, that is the only change in the whole policy that's there. And then the use of seclusion, they changed kind of what that should look like, and updated that. So that's basically what that policy is. We've had ESI we've had to report that. We have to report that to the state twice a year. So anytime a student is a threat to himself or to others, physically aggressive, there's different things that we do to restrain that child to do that. And we have one of the things in here is that you have to be properly trained. And so we use CPI, which is the Crisis Prevention Institute. They do all the training for us. And we've got 4 different individuals that are trained to be the trainers of that. And there's been a lot of training that's gone on the last few days, getting our staff prepared for that, because we have to get that updated every year. And so by law, we have to contact the parents whenever we do have to restrain or seclude a child. And so none of that has changed. It's just literally just a couple of definition pieces. So any questions on that one? Okay. The next one is the one that I messed up on, and that's the one on the military leave. So I apologize for not getting that out, but honestly, I've read through this policy, our current policy and the recommended updates, and I'm not seeing any significant changes in the policies. I think it's just a couple of language things, but it needed to be updated to reflect new federal compliance with federal law. So, and that just is the protections for if we have folks that are in the military, they get called off for whether they're in the Guard or the reserves to protect their jobs when they come back. What that policy is. Questions on that one?
I think you're being hard on yourself because I had it, read them both.
Did you find it?
Yeah, it's in the board packet. It was in there.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. Good deal. I didn't remember seeing it. So, okay, that makes me feel better. Any questions on that one? That one's pretty simple too. Which one's next, John? I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Overnight accommodations.
Okay, so this one's a brand new policy. We don't have anything to compare this to. And this is based on HB 2138, section 1 of the bill. And basically this is overnight accommodation, saying that when the kids are roomed together, they have to be the same sex that they were born with, and it goes into a whole litany of how they define that. And so that's just basically what that bill says. So Questions on that one?
And the policy was drafted from.
KSB drafted it. And all the policies that I've got for you guys, I've had Jennifer vet all of them. So I sent all of them to Jennifer to get her to vet them before I brought them to you. Okay, and then the next one, I believe, is it JH or KK? JH. Okay, so this one is a pretty significant change in the policy. If you look at the old one, this is the entire policy, our current policy, and then this is the recommended new policy. This one, basically, it's for student activities. Basically, it just says that we have to allow students that are homeschooled or students that are enrolled in private schools or enrolled with us part-time. They have, as long as they're in good standing academically, they can participate in CASHA sponsored activities. And that's also another, I can't remember which law that was, but yeah, 113. So both of these that I have, the next two are both Senate Bill 113s. So there's a lot to it, but basically that's what it says. That's the gist of the policy. Questions on that one?
Just a comment, I'm glad to see that one kind of come through. I think Kansas has been a little slow with our surrounding states on this particular issue.
Yeah. And then the last policy is actually one that Colleen talked about before we ever got it here. This is the sale of property. So once again, substantial change to the policy. This is our current policy, and actually it's only the top part of this because the bottom one's a different policy. So it's literally 4 lines is our current policy, and now it's drafted into 2 pages. And this is also Senate Bill 113. And basically this is, it just says that if we're going to dispose of a building, kind of like what happened with Friend, then we have to put it out there for a certain amount of time. The state gets first right of refusal to purchase the building if they want to. And there's a whole bunch of hoops that you have to jump through now to make that happen. And this just kind of outlines the policy, outlines all of the new state law based on that.
I had a question on that one. So in the old policy, we did silent bids, and the board policy was we accepted the highest silent bid or bid. Unless I missed it in this one. So if the state decides to buy the property from us, how do you determine the value?
That's a great question, and I don't know that I have the answer to that. I think the state, if they want to buy it,
For $1, they could.
I think they could.
So they determine.
I think they determine market value
Tell you
on it.
what they're gonna pay you. And
That's my interpretation. That's why we were in such a hurry to get done with Friend before
yeah,
that became law.
yeah, I knew that was urgent.
Yeah.
We just
Creates a policy for our district that is in line with state law.
All the policies I presented tonight, either our policy, they change our policies, they update our policies to match either state or federal law changes. Yes, sir. Any questions on that?
These are all first reads, so if anybody has any questions or comments on them, get them to Josh.
Yep.
Send agenda next week or next meeting.
Yep. One thing not related to this, but I know there's been some questions by the board about looking at maybe having a drug policy for our students that are participating in activities. Drew had looked at that pre-COVID. We started looking at that, and then it just kind of stopped. I think there was some questions, and so we just didn't move any further. So we're delving into that too, and so we'll have something to bring to you hopefully in the next few months for that.
Do you see that as a standalone policy or incorporated into any other?
No, that would be a standalone.
It wouldn't affect the student activities policy then?
I wouldn't think so. I think that would probably be a different policy. I think I would get direction from Jennifer to make sure but that's kind of how I see that. Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, that finishes up new business, so we'll move to board open discussion. Anybody has any discussion or comments?
I have. I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity that I had to attend the first day of the teachers gathering at Forest Good. And it's always just kind of, I'm just gonna use the word exciting to see them all gather. I know it's tough for some to think in terms of getting together, and it's maybe claustrophobic, or, you know, they're not into big crowds. They'd rather be with their team and their school. But when else does that crew get together in one place at one time? And so it was pretty exciting, I thought. And so I didn't want to miss it. And I attended the presentations from Dr. Dominguez and the guest speaker. And he had some wonderful stories and examples that, you know, and even participation by the audience. And that was all just very well done. Good job for the folks that put that together, and for that gentleman. As I understand it, he may even be a resource later for the district. Is that right?
If we want him to be, he's definitely open to that, bridging that relationship with us and training. His focus is training principals, so encouraging the growth of our people and building capacity in the administration. So if we
What they're doing in their schools, and I can't help but remember the inspirational speaker from the year before as well, and the concepts that he put out there, surprise and delight when we're trying to teach and what we're trying to accomplish. And it's always good to have a delightful surprise in how curriculum is presented. And I've seen examples where our staff do a great job of that as well. Surprise and delight also in things like the teacher's lounge, you know, the culture that we hope to see our teams create within the buildings, and how they encourage each other's just in things like maybe a sonic type ice machine in the teacher's lounge, or I don't know, I think another example used was a pancake printer. You know, I don't know if they ate pancakes, the teachers in the teacher's lounge, but whatever it is, it's something that can be put in there. Sometimes we hear it as a board, we hear, hey, if you could just improve the drainage at the early childhood center so that they can play when it rains. You know, we try to do that, but it's so it makes the road easy for them, I think, when they can have those moments of encouragement. And certainly, I think that happened in the gathering on the first day of the teachers getting together. So I just applaud that effort. That's what I had.
Dana?
Summer went by quickly, too quick. And as always, I'm just really grateful for all of the people that are coming back to the district and will, you know, work hard to do what they can for our students. And yeah, hopefully just wish everybody a good luck for the coming year.
Just to remind people to be safe, watch out for the kiddos. Mind the traffic laws and the school speed limit signs, and always, I can speak firsthand, first couple of days of school, the traffic accidents increase, everything increases, so I guess expect delays and please be careful.
I just want to welcome all of our faculty back. You know, it's great to see the school year starting back up again and just all the activities that come along with that. It's an exciting time, and look forward to another great school year.
Having summer in the budget.
Dr. Dominguez?
Jennifer too.
Jennifer, do you have any comments?
Well, school starts tomorrow with the half day, so we are extremely excited. Thank you for those kind words, Mark, because it was exciting. It was great energy and definitely trying to implement our systems to increase our habits. We're going to continue to grow our own, like Dr. Accorda said, and that is what we're going to have to do. Engage, enrich, empower as we go through it, and together is better. We're going to stress that. We're going to stress on working on our systems and improving our habits because we're in a situation, just as nature, your habits are what get you success or lack thereof. So we're going to continue to work on our habits and continue to improve our system. And we've got a great system. We're just going to try to keep fine tuning it and move forward. So we're excited.
I'll just join other board members and Dr. Dominguez that I'm excited for the new year. I know we had a lot of staff putting in a lot of hard work through the summer to prepare for the school year. And I know our teachers, they invest a lot in their classrooms to make that an environment. Students can come in and it's warm and exciting and a good place to learn. So I want to thank everybody for all your hard work and looking forward to a great school. With that, our next school board meeting, Board of Education, will take place on Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Board of Education room at 1205 Fleming Street, Garden City. Motion to adjourn.
Need to go into
Executive
executive.
We got executive session.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education recess for an executive session at 7:40. At 7:40 for the purpose of discussing an employee's job performance. Justification for the executive session is to protect the privacy of the employee's personnel record and is provided by KSA 75-4319B1. Open meeting will resume in this room at 7:55. Only the Board of Education members shall be included in the executive session.
Okay. Is that what we need?
I think that's what we need. Been moved and seconded. Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.